Okay, fine. So now I should start. A very good afternoon to one and all. It is a matter of immense pleasure for all of us on CARE app, that is a Center for Advocacy and Research on Environmental Laws and Animal Protection, that is a center working on behalf of National University of Study and Research in Law, Ranchi. We have invited you for the e-conclave on environmental law on the occasion of World Environmental Day, that is today, that is 5th June 2020. Now, today's event shall include virtual guest lectures, that is webinars, that we have again divided into two sessions, and national online quiz on environment and environmental laws. Today, for the first session, that is from 12 noon to 1 p.m., we have a very renowned speaker, Mr. Raj Singh Niranjan, the managing partner of Trans India Law Associates. He is presently the legal advisor to International Solar Alliance, a treaty-based intergovernmental organization working to create a global market system to promote clean energy. He is an advocate for right to energy to be included as a fundamental right in all the constitutions of the world and as a basic human right in Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We welcome you, sir. Today, the section that he is going to focus upon will be on reimagining right to energy as a constitutional right and its repercussions on climate change. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sanchita ji. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And I am the managing partner of Trans India Law Associates. We are the largest law firm in the world in energy sector. But this is a important occasion, World Environment Day, and this is the best way to celebrate World Environment Day in these trying times. So thank you, Sanchita ji, and thank you all the students of the Law College who have invited me. Then let us start with few questions actually. So if we ask ourselves a question that what is the biggest challenge in the world in energy sector, or as it in general, what is the biggest challenge? Then two things come to our mind. One is climate change and second is energy poverty. Now let us identify which is the biggest challenge in the world in energy sector. After 4 decades of practice, our firm 5 years back, we were sitting together, all the partners. We said that society has given us a lot. What have we given back to the society? That was the question. And we said that instead of doing small things, let us do one big thing. Let us identify the biggest challenge in the world in energy sector and start resolving it and working for it. So instead of we identifying the biggest challenge in the world in energy sector, we called experts from across the world, professors from Europe, professors from China, Southeast Asia, experts from solar, wind, hydro, thermal, experts from generation, transmission, distribution. And we had a conference in Delhi, which is called TILA International Conference on Energy 2016. And a lot of paper presenters from across the world, in fact, in national law universities also participated. We were surprised, and the agenda was only simple, one point agenda. What is the biggest challenge in the world in energy sector? We thought that collective wisdom is better than individual intellectualism. And after the conference, when the conference ended, the experts said we are unable to identify one biggest challenge. They said there are 3 major challenges and we don't know which is the biggest. So the 3 challenges which they identified, first challenge was that 1.2 billion people across the world do not have access to electricity. So we are all blessed that we have electricity and AC is running and we are able to communicate with each other. We are able to use this system to communicate with each other. Second biggest challenge is that 3.2 billion people across the world do not have access to clean fuel to cook food. So mothers cook food in a smoky environment using cow dung cakes, using wood. Their husbands go to the forest, cut the tree, and for 1 week, one family needs one tree 1 week for 1 week to cook foods for their kids and for themselves. I cannot tell them that it is an environment day, do not cut the trees for cooking food. Okay, and they suffer also. So whatever smoke is coming out, they inhale all the poisonous gases. And the women, they do not suffer alone. The child of 1 day to 10 year also suffers. The World Bank says that 5 million people every year die because of this indoor pollution itself. So that is the second biggest challenge. Third challenge, if in India the per capita power consumption is 500 units to 1500 units, not only in India, between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, depending on the state which you are living or country you are living, the per capita power consumption is 500 to 1500 units per person per annum. Then in North America and Europe, the per capita power consumption is 15,000 to 30,000 per person per annum. And this is precisely which is called energy poverty. So there are three major challenges. First is 1.2 billion people across the world do not have access to clean fuel to cook food. Second is 1.2 billion people across the world do not have access to electricity. Second challenge is 3.2 billion people across the world do not have access to clean fuel to cook food. Third challenge is energy poverty. And we can club all these three together and call them energy poverty. So there are two major problems. One is climate change and second is energy poverty. So after identifying the challenges, we said we don't want to become the part of the problem. Let us become the part of a solution. Let us find out solutions which we can implement practically and move forward. And we said we will not blame anyone, whether it is government, whether it is state government, whether it is United Nations. Let us take ownership of that challenge and start working for that. And we started finding out solutions. And there were a lot of important, innovative solutions which came to light. And the experts, we made that conference. In fact, we created a foundation which is called Dr. Gopal Energy Foundation to solve this challenge 5 years back. And the Dr. Gopal Energy Foundation is continuously working to identify solutions and work and do campaign for resolving these challenges. I will discuss 5-6 solutions which have been identified by the expert across the world in last 4 conferences. Fifth conference will be held in 2021 along with Solar World Congress in New Delhi, and you all are invited to join. So 5th TILA International Conference on Energy, which will be held on 24th to 28th October in Pragati Maidan, along with Solar World Congress. Solar World Congress, I will introduce. It is the a first major global conference. It is just like Olympics of solar sector. So every 2 years it happens in different countries. 2017 it was in Abu Dhabi. 2019 it was in San Diego, Chile, and 2021 is in New Delhi. So we are lucky in that sense, and our foundation, Dr. Gopal Energy Foundation, is blessed that it is organizing Solar World Congress, and it will help to solve both the challenges, climate change and energy poverty. So let us come to the solutions. We have identified the challenges. So part 2 is the solution. First solution is that right to energy, just like right to education is important, right to health is important. Similarly, access to energy and right to energy is equally important. Every person on the earth, however poor he may be, should have access to minimum amount of energy for a dignified living. And to ensure that, we should have it as a constitutional right. All the constitutions of the world should be amended, and right to energy should be included as a fundamental right. And Universal Declaration of Human Rights should include right to energy as a basic human right. Now, some people may argue that we are the taxpayers. Why should government mandate, access to energy to, everyone? Why should we taxpayers pay for that? Just imagine a situation. There is a lot of pollution in Delhi, and even if all the people are said that they start using, chulhas and cow dung cakes and wood to cook food, what will happen to the situation? What will the pollution levels be? So by providing access to energy, access to electricity, whether it is subsidized, whether it is free as a right, we are protecting ourselves actually. It is not the other way around. That level of pollution is decreasing. The clean fuel is being used. There are health benefits also. Their pollution is also reducing. Secondly, if you see, 3.2 billion people across the world are cooking food by using cow dung cakes and wood and unclean cooking methods. If And every week, for 1 week, if somebody wants to cook food in their homes, one tree is cut. If you are able to provide clean cooking fuel to these people, 3.2, it is 40% of the world's population. Automatically 3.2 billion trees per week will be reduced. They will not be cut. They will be safe. So right to energy will have an immense impact in climate change, mitigating the impact of climate change. I cannot tell a poor person that don't cut trees to cook food. But if I am able to provide access to clean fuel to him, whether it is from solar sources, whether it is from other sources, whether he uses hot plates or whatever other clean mechanism, suddenly this right to energy campaign will reduce the impact of it, will mitigate climate change impact to a greater extent. So first thing is that. So we are discussing one solution. So we'll discuss 5-6 solutions. We have understood the challenges. Let us discuss 5-6 solutions, and we can do a lot of things to implement those solutions. First solution is, number one, energy revolution is required. Just as we had green revolution, there was very the food was scarce in India, and because of this green revolution, suddenly the 3 times the production of food increased, and across the world, not across the world, in India, access to food is available here. Secondly, we had industrial revolution where a middle class was created, and those middle class now have access to a lot of facilities because of industrial revolution. A time has come for energy revolution. Energy revolutions can have many components. One component is 100% electric vehicles. Why do we need petrol and diesel when we can run our vehicles from electricity, clean source of fuel? So that may be one component of energy revolution. There are several components: moving towards renewable sources of energy, using more of solar, wind, hydro, and nature-based energy sources. That can be one thing. So one solution is energy revolution in lines of industrial revolution, and green revolution is required. Second, जो solution है, that I have already discussed, right to energy should become fundamental right in all the constitutions of the world, and it should be included in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a basic human right. And the challenge is that amending the constitution is not an easy task. And we thought that as a foundation, Dr. Gopal Energy Foundation, what can we do to have a bigger campaign on right to energy? So two questions we asked ourselves: who is the most impacted? The answer was women is most impacted. Second question was that how we can reach the decision makers, or member of parliaments, or the heads of the state, so that this becomes a reality. So then the answer was that professionals are very connected with the member of parliament. So lawyers are very connected, and they have a bigger role in legislating and drafting the legislation. So then we had, our foundation went in and had a memorandum of understanding with Vanasthali Vidyapeeth, which is the largest residential university for women. And we started in 2018 a competition which is called TILA International Moot Court Competition on Energy and International Law. So 2018, the objective of the moot court competition and the motto of the moot court competition is right to energy. We invite only ladies. This is open only for lady law students. This is the first moot court competition which is only open for lady law students. From across the world, we invite lady law students and to participate in this competition and win away the prizes and take the message of right to energy to their respective countries and then do campaign for it. And this is second competition we organized in 2019. It was a super success. We had judges and participants from China, UAE, Bangladesh, and there are some other countries also. Third competition, because of the trying situations, will be a purely online competition. It has to be decided again. So it will be on 10th October to 10th October and 11th October. So I would request all of the law students who are participating in this webinar or event, maybe their colleges can also participate in this moot court competition and support right to energy movement in their respective countries. So second, it was right to energy movement. Third is energy transition is required. So now our way of using energy has to change actually. So it should be as simple as, like, using we discontinue using without impacting the economy. We discontinue using fossil fuels and start driving our cars with clean fuels. We discontinue using fossil fuels for cooking food. We start using clean fuel for cooking food. It is we which who have to do it actually. So this energy transition or energy transformation is the next solution, and this campaign has to be done with by all of us actually. In fact, the students of your law college can take it as a campaign that we will every day we will work for energy transition, so that climate change is mitigated to a great extent. It will have a real impact. Okay. Third, fourth solution. So first is, I talked about energy revolution is required. Second is right to energy to become fundamental right. And third solution is energy transition is required. Fourth solution is we need an international solar grid now, or we can call it as an international renewable energy grid. So what happens? We have one Earth to live. Okay. Sun shines on the earth 24 into 7. It is available on the earth 24 into 7. If in India there is night, then in Europe or USA or North America or South America it is day. When there is night in South America, North America, it is day in Asia. So if we can have an international grid which is connected to each other across the world, the countries which are on the sunny side of the earth can provide electricity to the countries where electricity is required on where there is night. So government, that suggestion has been accepted by the government of India, and recently MNRE, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, has released one grid, one world, and it is called One Sun, One Grid, and One World initiative. So earlier, when this concept of grid was given, it was given by an executive engineer from Chhattisgarh, and it was a super concept. He said that international renewable energy grid or international solar grid can start from Cape Town. It can cross the entire African area, and from Egypt it will enter Asia, and then it will cross Asia, and from Russia it will enter North America. From North America, Alaska, it will then come down to Latin America, and then it will end in Chile. And the entire he gave that executive engineer, I praise him a lot every time. He gave us a concept of one grid, how we can create one grid. So effectively what will happen, when there is a day in one country, it will feed it into grid, and when there is a night, you will withdraw from that grid. You need not transport lot of oil and natural gas and waste time in transporting coal, and then move forward, and it will clean the entire energy situation. There is no requirement of less requirement of storage capacity, and more efficiencies will be there. So I'm thankful to the government that it has taken that initiative, and it will move forward. Let us all together join hands and support the government of India in this initiative. So next solution, I'm discussing few solutions. You all can also give solutions to us, and you can write mail to us. We will be glad to respond. You can take my WhatsApp number. My WhatsApp number is 9810070075. So email ID where you can give your suggestions for to solve the challenges of the world which we have discussed. Email ID is rsn Raj Singh Niranjan, short form hai rsn@dgef.in. Dr. Gopal Energy Foundation ka short form hai dgef.in. So I'll repeat WhatsApp. If you want to give a suggestion on WhatsApp, just give a suggestion on WhatsApp at 9810070075, and the email ID is rsn@dgef.in. Your suggestions are very valuable. Please go ahead and give your suggestion as to what we can do to mitigate climate change situation and energy poverty across the world. So then we again come to the probable solutions. One probable solution is Solarization of cooking food. So if 3.2 billion people can shift to using solar to cook food, there are now technologies are available. You need to do some innovation actually. So hot plates are available, and there is a mental block on shifting to hot plates. They say कि खाना का taste नहीं आएगा, but I tell you, you have to be innovative if you want to save the world. So first step, if you remember, we used to cook food. Our grandmothers used to cook food in with wood and cow dung cakes in the chulha. But then our mothers shifted to gas, LPG, and other forms of and that we are using now. Our generation can shift to hot plates. So this can be a new revolution actually. So one solution is that for mitigating climate change and for reducing energy poverty is, let us do solarization of cooking food. Let us encourage our entrepreneurs to make products that it becomes very easy for us to cook food. Whenever we establish a new house, we should have a kit, and we should take the kit to a new house, just tighten the kit and start cooking food. It should be like that simple. That like. So I have discussed five solutions with you. So I will just to wind up, I will say what are the challenges which we have discussed. Number one, we have discussed that there are two major challenges in the world. One is climate change. Second major challenge is energy poverty. And if you if further you want to discuss and quantify the challenge, 1.2 billion people across the world do not have access to electricity. 3.2 billion people across the world do not have access to clean fuel to cook food, and energy poverty. So if these challenges, if we want to solve these challenges, there are probable solutions. It is not that without solution it is going on. So few solutions which I discussed is, number one, there is a requirement of energy revolution. Second solutions which I discussed is, right to energy should become a fundamental right. Third solution which I discussed is, energy transition is required. We all have to adopt new technologies. Energy transition may include 100% electric vehicles. It may include 100% renewable sources of energy. Fourth, I discussed there is a requirement of international solar grid, so that the world can help each other to mitigate the climate change. And one sun, one world, one grid is the concept which is a possibility. Now you have that kind of fund actually. You can do it if you work hard. Next solution which I discussed is solarization of cooking food. So let us work on that direction. As a lawyers, two three things I can. So that's wonderful. You all heard me. But as a lawyer, two three things I can tell you. See, we talk a lot about environment all the time, but actually you can make a difference. One small thing which has happened in India, if you I can educate you, agro PV. So agro PV means agro photovoltaic. Normally, so the concept of agro PV is that farmer, when they are farming their land, they can also have they can solarize their farmland, the entire farmland. So the portion, the shade by the solar panels is good for a lot of crops actually. It is half shade and half light. Okay, and there is some warmth also. But in India, agro PV is illegal. Do you know that? And it is not by design. It is by mistake actually. So what happens? Whatever land revenue codes we have across India, all the states, they say that whenever you want to put up a solar plant or any industry, you have to convert that agricultural land to non-agricultural land. Then only you can establish a solar plant or any other plant. Similarly, there is a reverse law also in the revenue code, that once you have converted it into a non-agricultural land, you cannot do agriculture. It is very surprising. It is not that nobody told them that this has to be done. So all the states, I would request all the students to write articles in respect to all the 28 states in India and the union territories in India, and analyze their land laws and tell the state government, please amend your land law so that agro PV can be possibility. It is very surprising for me that agro PV cannot happen. Why can it? It is only tweaking and changing of the law. And if we all work together, we have this opportunity with us. Every state has this problem. So students from various states of India, I will request that please write an article, just analyze the land law, just see, understand what is agro PV, and write an article and tell your state government, please amend it, and please be proactive and positive. Actually, we don't have to accuse anyone. We have to only request and tell them that this even if you change this section, this is the proposed change I want to do. And whatever article you write, please also email to me or WhatsApp me. I will also be happy to forward it to the chief minister or the concerned power minister or secretary. And obviously, in all the conferences, I will speak about your article also. So that is one contribution you can give. Secondly, electricity laws is not taught in universities. It is very surprising. Electricity Act has so much of opportunities for students to move forward. It has it has all the electricity regulatory commission where you can practice. Appellate tribunal of electricity is there. Special courts are there for practice. Transactional advisory, energy arbitration is a very important area of practice. It is a lucrative field. But then the law schools have rarely included Electricity Act as a core subject. So around 6 years back, I wrote to all the national law schools and important universities, please include Electricity Act as a compulsory subject. But there was a surprise actually. So 5 universities accepted the concept and they said we have included in including national law universities. They said, sir, Mr. Raj Singh Niranjan, with your suggestions, we have included Electricity Act not as a compulsory subject, as an optional subject for the 4th and 5th years of the student. But there is a challenge. We don't have faculty to educate or teach the students. So then what we did is, as our foundation, we always are there for solutions. So number one, we created a course book. Secondly, we created a course which is called Electricity Laws Online Certificate Course for professors of the universities, so that they can take this course, take this certification, and after taking that certification, they can teach to the schools. And it was only for members and officers of state electricity regulatory commission. This course was for them, actually designed for them, and faculties of the law faculties, so that they can get certified and then they can teach Electricity Act 2003 in their respective college. So it has done very well. And after a request from the students that we also want to do that course, and obviously the PSUs, all the PSUs, they personally requested that our officers should also do this course because it is important and relevant to them. So last year we opened this course for everyone to take. So now students are eligible and officers of public sector undertakings are also eligible to take this course, which is called Electricity Laws Online Certificate Course. So any person who wants to seek opportunities in energy sector and become a lawyer, energy lawyer, to practice in state electricity regulatory commission, appellate tribunal, electricity ombudsman, or do transactional advisory work, contract management, or land acquisition in energy sector, they can also opt for this course. And it is available in the website www.dgef.in. So if you go to that then you can the details of the course are available. So this is called capacity building exercise. So our foundation has also taken this capacity building exercise. Whoever takes this course, whatever contribution comes, it goes as a donation to Dr. Gopal Energy Foundation to promote right to energy movement. So with this, I just conclude with summarizing whatever we have discussed. We have discussed there are few challenges in the world, and we are lucky that we have opportunity to resolve these challenges. One is that 1.2 billion people across the world do not have access to electricity. Second is 3.2 billion people across the world do not have access to clean fuel to cook food. Third is energy poverty, and fourth, as well as that it is climate change. We can resolve all the 4 problems by following certain guidelines. Some of the solutions we have suggested. One solution is energy revolution. Second solution is right to energy should become fundamental right. Third solution is we require energy transition. Fourth solution is that international solar grid is required. Fifth solution is solarization of cooking food is required, and we are all are connected in all these aspects. So with this summary, uh, I end my conversation, and I thank the faculty and staff of your law university. Thank you for inviting me. So if there is any questions, I would be happy to take those questions. I hand over to Ms. Sanchita, Professor Sanchita. You can please take forward the discussion.
Sir, I repeat the question. One question we have from Kumar Saurav. What changes in international law should be made to enable international solar grid?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, Saurabh. So firstly, all the electricity laws in including India and across the world, national electricity laws have to be amended to include trans-border transfer of electricity. If you see the 2020 Amendment Act of the Electricity Act, so Electricity Act Amendment Act 2020 has been proposed by the Government of India, and that provides for cross-border transfer of electricity. So similar cross-border transfer of electricity amendment in the regulations, respective national jurisdiction has to be made. That is the first step. But then we need to have an international convention on electricity. Remember, Saurabh, now electricity or energy is not a national subject. पहले ये होता था कि वो स्टेट सब्जेक्ट होती थी, इनफैक्ट म्यूनिसिपल सब्जेक्ट होता था कि भाई दिल्ली का है तो दिल्ली वाले ही मैनेज करेंगे, म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन या जैसे बॉम्बे में बेस्ट मैनेज कर लेगी. Then it became a state subject. Now we think it as a national subject. It no longer, energy no longer remains as a national subject. So if, for example, if I can tell you, अगर फिल्म जो होती है, solar film or solar cell is manufactured in China, then Vietnam will manufacture the modules. The funding will come from European Union. Then the project will be installed in India. The electricity will go to Bangladesh. So you see 5 countries getting involved in this energy situation. So then to resolve this energy, this complexity, it is better that United Nations calls for a special conference to discuss unification of electricity laws across the world. And just as you have for IPR and unilateral model, similar model, or arbitration act, you have an international model. Similar model has to be created for electricity sector also, and that model can be replicated across the world. In this case, one or more important, I hope I answered your question, but there is one more important thing. Now energy disputes have also become international actually because of this similar situation. So there is a requirement of a dispute resolution mechanism in energy sector. So what our foundation has done is we have created an institution which is called International Energy Arbitration Center, institutional dispute resolution mechanism, so that from across the world, whatever disputes are there between countries or energy entities, it can be resolved by expert in an amicable manner, so that the movement of energy revolution is not hindered by disputes actually. So this has also become, and maybe for dispute resolution we will not require international convention, because New York Convention for Arbitration is a very powerful convention. It is the most powerful treaty, I think so, and it has the capability. Once we have to only set up institutional arbitration mechanism to implement whatever is the intention of the act, Electricity Act, section 158 and other provisions of the act. So hope I have answered your questions. So yes, Sanchita madam. So we should continue.
Uh, so one more question we have upcoming, that is from Avinash Kumar. What are the regulatory challenges in financing of solar power plants in India? That is the question that he has put forth. What are the regulatory challenges in financing of solar power plants in India?
Okay, Avinash, that is a wonderful question. But let me tell you, it is a very big opportunity actually. There is no dearth of money across the world. There is no dearth of consultant, and there is no regulatory challenge. Remember, if somebody wants to work in this sector, it is funding is available from across the world due to climate change initiative. In fact, sovereign funds are ready to fund this sector. So there is no dearth of funding for renewable energy sector, whether it is through World Bank or through SBI or through Punjab National Bank or through specialized institutions like Power Finance Corporation or Rural Electrification Corporation. Indian Renewable Energy Development Corporation, IREDA, has done remarkable work in this area. I understand 70,000 crore plus amount of rupees in last few years have been transferred to the renewable energy sector. So in my view, there is no dearth. It is only our intention and intent, our courage to enter the sector which is stopping us. It is not the money that it is stopping us. And if you see the treaty of Solar World Congress, framework of Solar World Congress, the opening para itself, it says that the objective of Solar World Congress is that 1,000 billion US dollars have to be spent in solar applications between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn by 2030. So you see that there is the world is there with you to help in this energy whatever solutions I have talked about, energy revolution, right to energy, energy transition, international solar grid, or solarization of cooking food, or manufacturing in the solar entity. So it is it is human ingenuity or entrepreneur skills which are required, but the money is available actually. Yes, Sanchita, over to you.
Yes, sir. So one more question, sir. That is from Ayush Chaturvedi. What are the career prospects for a law students in energy litigation?
Yeah, Ayush, that's a super question, and there are super opportunities. I can see, if for litigation people, I can say, firstly, the regulatory litigation is very specialized. So if you specialize in that, you will have ample work for yourself. So there are more than 20 electricity in the Constitution of India. Electricity is a concurrent subject. It is a blessing in disguise for all the lawyers actually. So what happens if there is a concurrent subject in electricity? Electricity is a concurrent subject. Effectively, it means that central government and state governments both have powers to legislate on electricity matter. So we have a central act of electricity act, but all the states can have their own laws, and 10 plus states have made their own electricity act. And now the challenge is how to implement those acts. We don't have to implement only the central act. We have to implement the central act and state act together. And usko implement karne ka simple tarika hai, which you also know. Doctrine of harmonious construction. So whenever, for example, you are sitting in, maybe Madhya Pradesh, or let us assume you are sitting in Delhi. So electricity act भी apply होना है, then electricity reforms act, Delhi electricity reforms act भी apply, दोनों act को लेके आपको apply करना है doctrine of harmonious construction का principle apply करके. Secondly, अगर there is inconsistency, then you will apply doctrine of eclipse. Only the portion of the Delhi Electricity Act which is inconsistent with the Central Electricity Act 2003 will not be applicable. Otherwise, that act will be applicable. So effectively, lawyers have a lot of work to do whenever state-wise how the power sector will move forward. So first litigation opportunity is regulatory litigation. So tariff determination or tariff adoption in all the state electricity regulatory commission and central electricity regulatory commission. And remember, that is the reason we have two sets of regulators. So people ask this question again, ki why can't we have only one regulator as Central Electricity Regulatory Commission? Why is there requirement of two, State Electricity Regulatory Commission and Central Electricity Regulatory Commission? The reason is that it is a federal country and it is in the concurrent list. So two levels of regulators were compulsory to be created. So that is why we have 20 plus regulators, and you can practice in the regulatory commission. How you can practice? One, if somebody wants a license, whether it's for transmission license, whether it is for distribution license, whether it is trading license, you can say, okay, as a client, you can say, I can, put it before the regulatory commission and get you a license, number one. Secondly, if any power sector entity wants to determine a tariff, you can say, I can, as a lawyer, get a tariff determined by the regulatory commission for you. Okay. Third is that if there is a dispute with related to power purchase agreement, I can get that power purchase agreement dispute resolved. In fact, now a new entity is being created under Electricity Amendment Act 2020, which will have original jurisdiction for resolving contractual disputes actually. So first area is regulatory litigation. Second area is consumer litigation. So there is a provision. There are three provision. One is Electricity Ombudsman Institution has been created. So if there is consumer grievance, you can go to the grievance redressal mechanism, which is called internal grievance redressal mechanism, and appeal will go to Electricity Ombudsman. Second, consumer courts are already open. It is allowed in under Electricity Act that you can choose the forum. The best thing is you can choose the forum. You can go to Electricity Ombudsman or you can go to consumer forum. Third area of practice is criminal. So there, if AT&C losses, if you see, are huge, which AT&C means aggregate technical and commercial losses. इफेक्टिवली उनको इजी वर्ड में बोले तो चोरी से जो बिजली का लॉस होता है उसको AT&C लॉसेस कहते हैं. उसके लिए सरकार ने हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में स्पेशल कोर्ट्स बनाई हैं, स्पेशल इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कोर्ट्स व्हिच डील विद दिस केसेस. So if you are interested in criminal laws, then you can go and practice in those special courts. The appeal will go as per the CRPC actually. Then these are the few areas. Appeal from State Electricity Regulatory Commission and Central Electricity Regulatory Commission lies in Appellate Tribunal of Electricity. So litigation people have a lot of work to do. Similarly, there is a connected area also which is called energy arbitration. Lot of disputes are there in arbitration. One PSU which I know has 10,000 crore rupees of dispute in arbitration. In if one power company has so much of dispute, you can imagine that how much dispute will be there in the energy sector. So litigation people have a lot of opportunities in energy sector. Yes. So I hand over to Sanchita if there are any other questions. Okay, I can read the question. Sir, what are the legal hurdles in land acquisition for the power projects? That's a wonderful question. It is a very important issue. So what happens when we had traditional power plants like thermal or hydro? The requirement of for thermal power plant for generating 1 megawatt of power is 1.2 acres of land. And it can be reduced to 0.8 acres also, less than 1 acre also. Okay. But in case you want to generate same amount of electricity from solar power plants, the area required is 5 acres to 9 acres, depending on the technology. So massive land, 5 to 9 times more land is required for producing that similar amount of electricity. So then land acquisition becomes very, very important actually. In fact, the biggest land acquisition is being done by our firm, TransIndia Law Associates. We have acquired around more than 2,000 acres for Suzlon Energy. We have acquired from Adani Renewables. A lot of companies we do land acquisition exercise, and it is important area. And remember, land is a state subject. So every state will have a different land laws. So if you this subject with the question which you have asked is a detailed question. It will take around 2-3 hours for me to answer that question. I have written an article on land acquisition challenges for solar and wind sector. Maybe I will forward it to your faculty, or you can WhatsApp me that you want that article. I will forward that article to you. But this is a very important practice area, and if you can study it, please do study it and assist the renewable energy transformation in this country. Land acquisition is very, very important area. So with this, I hand over again to Sanchita. Or if anybody else has any questions, they can, I can read those questions now. So you can write those questions. If you don't have the questions, then we conclude it, and you are always free to ask me through WhatsApp or email any queries if you have.
Time has come for
One more thing, maybe in the end, I would like to say that environment hydropower projects are most beneficial for environment actually. I have seen a lot of disputes in hydropower projects, but I think more research is required, and you all students should do some research on that about hydropower projects. Just like renewable sources of energy, solar, wind, hydro is a very very important component of renewable sources of energy. I have seen a lot of litigation in hydro sector, but if I do cost benefit analysis, I see whenever there is a hydro power plant, if you see the example of Narmada Sagar and Omkareshwar project, which are the latest edition, the flora and fauna of that area has improved. It has increased. Okay? There are more animals there. There are more plants, and there is no human intervention. Even the agriculture of that local area has increased. Now the green revolution is going on in Madhya Pradesh now because of hydropower plant. So maybe I will leave it at this. Sanchita, you can take over.
So, Sir has flaunted with the challenges and also the solution that time has come for energy revolution, or you can say energy transition. So, along with all the stakeholders of the society, what he has repeatedly told that it is the students who can make the change. So, it is for you, the students, and I am very confident that along with me, the participants and the students have learned a lot from lecture, sir. Thank you so much. So, on behalf of NUSRL Ranchi, our very own Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Keshav Rao, sir, for making this event happen. And last but not the least, I am thankful of Care App, without whom this event would not have been possible. So over to you, Mohit.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for giving a vote of thanks and thanks. Thank you very much, Raj sir, for joining us today. When we look at the right to energy as a constitutional right, it comes often it comes at a cost. So we have to look at the repercussions on the constitutional side. We have to look at the repercussions on environmental side, obviously. Uh, and that was a very enlightening session, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And
So thank you to the students and the faculty, and Vice Chancellor of your university. Please convey my regards and blessings. And please, if your university requires any help from our side, whether it is from foundation side or from our firm side, Trans India Law Associates side, we'll be glad to assist. And even in future events, we'll be happy to contribute and collaborate. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Goodbye to all of you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.